Just so everybody knows, we're live streaming right now.
Thank you.
Vanessa, I like those glasses.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome. Hope everybody had a good weekend.
Oh boy, yep, I guess.
All right.
Whew.
Like most everybody is here. Thank y'all for coming. And if y'all ready to start, we are at 5:30 plus a little bit. I'd like to call our meeting to order. And Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
She must be on mute.
Vanessa, are you on mute?
Vanessa,
I think she might have her audio turned down.
she's coming to see you, Jennifer.
Okay, hold on one second.
There she goes, right in the office.
Well, Mr. Wilbert, thanks for making our day a lot of fun.
Did you get a lot of phone calls?
I ducked a few.
Did you? Good,
Yeah.
good. I hope you felt well prepared.
Yes, sir.
Good.
I think Vanessa looks like she's heading over to Jennifer's side. Oh, here she comes back again.
So this was, somebody said the whoever was muted.
Now you got it.
You're
It
not
said,
muted.
it said it earlier.
You're
We
not
can hear
muted.
you now.
Now,
We can hear you.
We can hear
The
you.
audio is all the way down. All right, can you hear us okay?
Yeah,
All right.
okay.
just fine. I've
All
done
right.
that myself.
Okay.
Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll, please?
Yes. Councilwoman Del Chapo,
Here.
Councilmember Shealy,
Here.
Councilmember Saccharin,
Here.
Councilmember Saccharin.
He's here.
He's
I'm
here, we
here.
see.
Okay. Councilmember Mitchell,
Went to sleep. Here.
Councilmember Brady,
Present.
Councilmember Gregory,
Here.
Councilmember Waring, Councilmember Seekings.
Here.
Okay. Councilmember Shade,
Present.
Councilmember Griffin. Councilmember
Muted.
Griffin.
He's here.
Okay.
Here.
Okay. Councilmember Appel,
Here.
Councilwoman Jackson,
Here.
Mayor Tecklenburg.
Here. And Councilmember Shealy, could I call on you on the spur of the moment to say a little prayer for us to get us started, please?
Yes, sir. Be glad to. Let us
Thank
pray. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for the blessings of this day, Lord. We thank you for our 350th celebration, although it wasn't what we would like for it to be. We ask that you'll be with those that are sick, and we ask for recovering and healing, and be with those who are caring for the sick, be with our police officers, our firefighters, and everyone involved in helping our city to recover. And be with us this evening, Lord. Guide us in our decisions, for it's in your holy and precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Man, thank you very much. So I'm going to move right to Mr. Scav, who with our remarkable staff is continuing to lead our efforts with the coronavirus response. Shannon, are you out there?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Our objectives remain the same, though we are looking at some additional ones. Maintain situational awareness of COVID-19 cases, limit exposure to the COVID-19 virus, keep order in the city, preserve the city government workforce, and assist the medical community in mitigation of COVID-19. Worldwide, we're just shy of 2.5 million COVID cases with 168,500 deaths. That's according to Johns Hopkins tracker. There have been almost 767,000 COVID cases in the U.S. with 41,313 deaths as of 3:30 this afternoon. In South Carolina, according to DHEC, as of 4:30, there were 4,439 cases statewide with 124 confirmed dead. In Berkeley County, we're looking at 138 cases with 3 dead. Charleston County, 391 cases with 3 confirmed deaths. School openings. As of now, the state Department of Education has provided no additional guidance regarding school closings, according to a Charleston County School District official. Charleston County is finalizing a plan to provide testing to vulnerable populations at various locations in the county. In terms of keeping order in the city, computers being in a little bit of a pain. Sorry about that. Charleston Police Department responded to 7 calls of service regarding large crowds or gatherings in the last 48 hours. The police department notes that call volume is relatively stable with no unusual spikes in activity and continues to closely monitor call volume for domestic violence, assault, suicide, and overdose incidents for any significant increases. The police department continues to monitor calls for a protest at Marion Square over the weekend. However, no protesters showed and no issues were reported. Charleston Fire Department was dispatched or responded to 49 possible COVID-19 calls in the last 48 hours. The fire department is reporting that call volume remains stable as well, with no reported spikes in calls for service at this time. Since Friday, livability and tourism officers conducted 38 proactive inspections, total that included 14 construction sites and 24 non-essential businesses for operating compliance. There was 1 non-essential business found in violation, was issued a warning. For code enforcement complaints, there were 32 reports total that included 0 complaints for non-essential businesses operating and 3 social distancing reports. On investigation, all were found to be in compliance. All public service employees have been returned to working weekly and are separated into 3 separate teams to maintain adequate distancing for garbage and trash. Today, 29 collections apparatuses were scheduled to continue working in the Peninsula, James Island, and West Ashley. City Police and Fire resource availability. There are currently no issues with police or fire personnel lacking PPE during calls for service. So great job continues by our logistics folks there. Citywide, city department A teams are on the rotation this week. In terms of employee work status, with 1,246 employees accounted for in all 15 of 15 departments reporting. On Friday, we had 32% in office with 15% working in home, and then 25% in the field. Everyone else, about 30% were on some type of leave. Citizen services desks, calls to the citizen service desk on Thursday continue to average about 200 calls for the day, with trash collection continuing to be a common expressed concern. Citizens have also expressed enthusiasm and appreciation for trash collection schedules returning to normal. Charleston Area Convention and Visitors Bureau on Thursday reported 52 open hotels in the Charleston area, including 26 in the city. Pending your questions, that's all I have for you tonight.
Thank you, Shannon. Any questions for Shannon?
Yeah, I have a couple, Mayor.
Councilmember Gregory.
Yes, on trash pickup, I've gotten several calls from the Westchester community on James Island saying that while trash is being picked up on the island, it appears as though their neighborhood is being skipped. Can we please look into that for me?
Happy to do that for you, sir, and I'll follow up with you this evening on it.
Okay, appreciate it. The second question is, we do have the number of cases by zip code. My question more specifically is for zip code 29403, where it appeared as though, a large number of cases. Can you tell me whether or not those cases are concentrated or are those cases spread throughout that zip code?
I'm not in a position to tell you that, sir. What I'm happy to do for you, though, is contact our DHEC representatives and see if they can dial in with any more detail. That was 29403, sir?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Councilmember Shade.
Yes, sir. Shannon, thank you for your work on all of this. Can you give us an update as to compliance with the relaxation of boating, with boat ramps being opened, and what DNR has done on far as compliance reports and complaints?
I haven't received anything specific to that. I would be happy to defer, maybe if we have a law enforcement representative on the phone, Chief Reynolds, if you're there, maybe he's got something. I'm happy to dig in for you, sir, but nothing was reported to me following the weekend.
Chief Reynolds is with us.
Yes, we actually, I hate to say this, we're kind of blessed with not so great weather in terms of boating conditions. There's a lot of wind out there and waves. We had a substantial footprint in law enforcement, both police and fire were out there. All of our regional partners worked together Friday through Sunday, and there was actually a lot less traffic and really not a whole lot to report. I spoke with Councilmember Appel on Friday. He voiced some concerns being an avid boater and actually gave me some good insights about things to maybe look for. And I'm happy to report we did not have a lot of activity, and what we did have, we didn't have a lot of problems or issues or concerns.
The reason I bring that up, Chief, is because, and Shannon, is because in the creek that runs right behind my house, I saw numerous violations. DNR was out there, they were very active, but there were numerous violations of people congregating, tying the boats up together. The number of boats had more than the number of folks that were allowed on there. And I didn't know if there was any numbering, counting, or any report being reflected on that. Because I just think what they did is they just drove up to those violators and told them to disperse. I don't know if there's any record kept of any of that sort of stuff. But from my observations, it was not well complied with, what I observed.
Yeah, I can check to see if they have any numbers. I can tell you our guys were out there in force with their regional partners. We didn't see a whole lot of that. We anticipated seeing a lot of that, and we were actually kind of surprised that we didn't see much of that type of activity. So I'll talk to my guys, and I kind of kept in touch with them throughout the weekend. And actually, Deputy Chief Walker was out there with them on the waterways, and that's good to know. And I'll make sure I pass that on. But their perspective was from when we had the really good weather and we had some real significant problems in the past, it was a lot less than what we anticipated when the governor kind of opened that back up again.
Thanks, Chief.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions, suggestions? So the next thing on the agenda is to consider a proposed emergency ordinance on decreasing the risk of exposure to COVID-19 in retail businesses.
So moved.
As well, we got motion and second, anyone?
Second.
Okay, we're open for discussion. So as you all know, Governor McMaster issued an order just about an hour ago, which would open back up another, what formerly had been non-essential businesses. And so we'll have more retail businesses opening. And this is consistent with the governor's order asking everyone to engage in sanitation guidelines and distancing as prescribed by CDC and DHEC. So I guess what we're doing here, though, is just specifying those guidelines a little more discreetly, a little more in detail, so that we accentuate the importance of safety as we're reopening our businesses. And I'm committed, and I think we all have been, that Charleston remain one of the safest places to the public when all is said and done. My goal would be, when we really fully start opening up and reviving our hospitality business and welcoming people back to Charleston in full force, that we have a reputation that we were one of the safest places in the nation, and that we all put the policies in place and helped our business community put those in place so that employees and customers and citizens at large are able to remain safe throughout this COVID-19 episode that we're in. So I know we just sent it out an hour ago, but that's just it in a nutshell. There's are there any questions or comments? Would y'all, Councilmember Shade?
Thank you, Mayor. And you know, you've received all of our attention and condemnation for all the wonderful work that you have done on this. And you were the leading edge, I think, within the state of South Carolina. And I attended your press conference on Friday, and your plan for reopening that you presented to us earlier. And you've just been the leader with all of this. But on this ordinance, I'm going to vote against it. And I'm going to explain why I'm going to vote against it. It's too early. I pulled up the DHEC numbers as to where our cases are. And correct me, Shannon, or anybody else on this, but we have not seen a consistent trend in a downward number of cases being reported in the state of South Carolina. The numbers have gone up continually. And the federal guidelines on this thing requires a 14-day period in which we've seen a noticeable amount of decline. Now, I brought up the point about the voting intentionally, because I wanted to bring y'all's attention to what I observed from in my own creek, in the creek behind my house, and what transpired within 24 hours. Within 24 hours of the governor opening up the boat ramps, I saw people who were congregated. 6 boats were tied up at one particular point, 3 at another point. And DNR was out there rushing around like mad, trying to find those folks. And they were out there in full force. We're putting our law enforcement people at risk on going out there and enforcing laws about congregating. Now, either we do this, just go ahead and open up everything and not put our firefighters and our police officers, our livability and enforcement officers at risk of having to go out and enforce distancing on this thing, or we follow the federal guidelines on this and wait till we have a 14-day period of time in which this thing has calmed down some. It's not calmed down. And this sounds contrary to what I think we have been doing for the past month. I'm a small business owner. I'm feeling the effects of all of this, and I want businesses to open up tomorrow if I had my choice. But our number one goal and our number one responsibility is public safety. And I think this ordinance and what the governor has done is in direct violation of that. And so I'm not going to vote for it. Those are my reasons why I'm not voting for it. I think we should revisit this in 2 weeks and see where we are. If y'all go through grocery stores, if you go through Home Depot or Lowe's or any of these big box stores that are open, watch what's taking place with all of this. And you think folks are going to comply with this? I don't think they're not doing it intentionally. I know they're not doing it intentionally, but following these rules and guidelines and putting arrows in aisles and expecting people to have safe distancing. And I just think we're putting our employees at risk. I think we're putting our fire department people at risk, our police department, code enforcement people at risk by having this ordinance approved. And I would ask that we wait and defer this for 2 weeks and see where we are.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Jackson.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate going behind Councilmember Shade. I too am going to vote no against this. We obviously haven't had a long time to think about this, but just in principle and in practice, it's one thing to ask our enforcement people, especially the police and the livability, but also first responders to take care of the few, locations that by now we all know are open, the big box stores and the lawn and, implement stores, and then the grocery stores. So those locations are at least eligible to be monitored. And we've worked hard to develop the relationships with those managers, and, it's not great. But my husband and I have been tempted to go to Lowe's at least once or twice a week since this, because we're reworking our front yard into a big rain garden. I think we're sort of sorry that we started that at this point, but we're dedicated to finishing. Anyway, we've watched how Lowe's has incrementally improved the way that they're controlling their customers. But it took them a couple of weeks before they even, fully got it. And I know they had a lot of hand-holding from our city staff to make it right. I don't think there's enough people, and there are not enough small business owners who have extra staff to come and, stand at the door. When you think about the expense that we're putting our business owners through for a little bit of customer base who might be bold enough to get out there and, take a chance that it's okay to go out onto the street and just start shopping like we did in early March. So I'm sorry that the governor feels compelled to do this, but I don't think the city needs to. If there's some reason why we have to comply, then I'd like to hear that from our corporate counsel and our law enforcement people. But I'm going to join Councilmember Shade in a no vote. So thank you.
Mr. Mayor, this is Gregory.
Yeah, it's Councilmember Gregory.
Mr. Mayor, I think that just as we've been a leader regarding stay at home, I think as the largest city in the state, we should continue to be a leader. I don't agree at all with any of the openings that were recommended by the governor. I agree with my colleagues, particularly Councilman Shade. We have not seen a consistent decline, while in our PowerPoint, we talked about in phase 1 that the number of cases are low. I think, however, that should be changed to there is a decline in the number of cases, which would be consistent with the national information that was laid out. So I really think that if we are truly the leaders of this state, that I think that we are, I think that we should lead on this one. I think it's too early. I think the majority of the country also feels that way. And as a councilman representing the safety of the residents in my district and in this city, I could not support this at all.
Well, I appreciate those comments. I must say the whole intent of this is to enhance safety for our citizens when they're shopping in any retail outlet. It kind of standardizes the structure or the protocol by which a store has to distance people. And no, for a small business, someone would not have to be out front, Councilmember Jackson. They would just have to be on site, but somebody would have to be responsible for ensuring that the numbers of customers don't exceed the maximum occupancy. It goes beyond the governor's order in the sense that it's requiring the business owner to post on the front door how many people are allowed to come in the store. They can figure that from their square footage. If they need our help, we can help them come up. So we're really going beyond the requirements for safety in order to make lemonade out of a situation that's a little bit like lemons for all of us. We want to get businesses back open, but we want to do it in a safe fashion for everyone. And so that's the intent here. It's simply to be a leader in keeping protocols safe for everybody and to making it even across the board, whether you're a big business or small. So that's the intent.
Hey, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, my concern, however, is if we do this and there's a surge of some sort, I don't want to be a part of that. And that's why the reason I'm voting no.
Understood. All right. Councilmember Sacman.
Thank you, Mayor. Is it possible to share any kind of conversations or just the nature of what folks are feeling like in Mount Pleasant and North Charleston in terms of their leadership and the municipalities? I feel like whatever we do, it's going to be counterproductive if our local municipalities aren't following suit. So I'm just trying to understand like what the discussion has been in from a regional aspect.
Right. So I spoke with the other mayors this afternoon about a number of topics, and the governor's order included. Part of it was about the beaches, you know, which we don't have as big of, and we have the beach over at Dimitri Park on James Island, so it doesn't impact us so directly as the retail stores opening. You know, and the governor specifically gave local jurisdictions some authority there about whether they would open up the beaches or not. And so, as you probably saw in the media already, Isle of Palm, Sullivan's Folly, and Edisto are going to wait a little longer before they do that on a local level. The governor did not afford us that right in his order today about opening up these additional retail stores. And so, and maybe Susan would like to chime in, but you know, he disallows local jurisdictions from being contrary to him. So at this point, for us to say a florist can open when he specifically or cannot open when he specifically said they can open, we're not empowered to do that per his specific order. That's the way I read it. So that being the case, I want it to be as safe as possible for everybody going into that florist store or jewelry store or clothing store, as the case may be. So we are allowed to do that and to be more specific about you know, those safety protocols. He mentions them broadly and generally in his office, in his order, but we're just being a little more specific. And I think that sends a message to the business community that we as the city of Charleston will be vigilant, that we'll be doing like we have over the last few weeks with the essential businesses and the grocery stores and Lowe's and all, to work with them, to communicate the need for all this, to give them a hand. And so at the end of the day, we're making folks safer by trying to do this. So that's where I'm coming from. Susan, do you want to add to what I'm trying to say?
Certainly, Mayor. You know, we just got this order. I think it was posted a little after 5, and we were waiting to see it to find out, you know, what the scope of it was and also to what extent we were preempted of taking any action. And as you mentioned, Mayor, the order does specifically say that if a local jurisdiction has an ordinance that conflicts with the governor's ordinance, we in effect are preempted, or our ordinance is trumped by his order. So to the extent we have our group of non-essential retail businesses that previously were considered non-essential by the governor, he has now basically said they can open and operate. And so for us to take the position that they have to remain closed, I think there is a very good argument that our local ordinance conflicts adversely with his ordinance or his order, and that would be problematic. I don't know if it would lead to a lawsuit or not by the governor or a business person, but certainly we're coming head on to a clash in that respect. And so with that in mind, we tried, you know, Mayor, in this ordinance, as you directed us, to thread that needle as well as we could to respect that order, but at the same time, impose significant restrictions that we felt would be legally sound and were not in conflict with his order, because he did not what's called totally preempt the field. He did not 100% regulate what we could or could not do on this issue. So so that's unfortunately where we find ourselves at this point legally. But I would add, to respond to Councilmember Gregory's question, we did include in the proposed ordinance, I think it's in the last whereas clause, that if there would be, we would continue to monitor the conditions and would immediately take additional steps if necessary to limit any increase in the outbreak in the city. So if there would be a spike or a suggestion that a spike were coming, I think that, Mayor, your thought was we would immediately revisit this issue.
Absolutely. Any further discussion? Let me see if there's anybody else first. Councilmember Shade. Councilmember Appel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to be, I think that Councilmember Shade, Councilmember Jackson, and Councilmember Gregory all have raised very good points. I think that there is now a very clear political desire to reopen the country, regardless of what the facts are on the ground. And what I'm seeing is the president's pushing it down on the governors are now pushing it down on local governments, and we're being forced to push these very technical compliance issues on businesses. Keeping a logbook of cleaning regimen. I mean, all these technical requirements that have to go into this. That's complicated. And this is all happening very quickly. And it's difficult. It's difficult, but I think that from a legal standpoint, the governor has decided not to make these retail stores the same as boat landings and beach access points, where discretion was afforded to the local governments. The governor did not open the boat landings over the weekend. Charleston County did. The governor just said Charleston County could if they wanted to. That's not how the governor has chosen to approach this non-essential business thing. The only glimmer of sunshine I can see on this issue is if you really look at the businesses that we're talking about here: jewelry stores, furniture store, luggage stores. I don't know how many people are going out to buy diamond rings and diamond earrings right now in the middle of a pandemic. I think that this may be a bit of a tempest in a teapot regarding the type of businesses. I mean, the fact of the matter is that Lowe's and Home Depot have been open for the last month and a half. Grocery stores. I mean, this is where people have been congregating and packing in. So I think a lot of this is just being done for optics. We're reopening the country by allowing flower shops and jewelry stores to open. And I feel for those businesses. But what's hurting those businesses now is not a stay-at-home ordinance or a closure of essential businesses ordinance. It's just the reality that the economy has received a gut punch from this crisis, and people are, I don't know how much of a difference this is going to make one way or the other. I don't see people, mobbing the local flower shop right now under this crisis, or deciding to buy a new dinette set during COVID-19. So I think that this is a difficult situation. I think the city of Charleston, again, is being put into a very difficult situation by the powers that be. But I think that if we're going to do this, and if we're going to be forced to do this, these steps that we're recommending are the best we can do in a bad scenario. So, I'm very mixed about this. I think it's the wrong policy. I want to be very clear. I think this is the wrong policy. It's not being driven by data. It's not being driven by epidemiology. It's being driven by just a desire to get back to normal. Well, the virus doesn't care about our desires. It cares about the reality on the ground. And I don't think we're nearly in a place right now where we can begin to start sending these mixed signals. And that's what we're seeing in these state capitals around the country right now. We're seeing a lot of confused people that are being sent mixed messages and conspiracy theories. And I think that unfortunately, this is going to make this process all the more difficult. But we're in a dilemma, and I think it's the wrong policy, but I'm not sure we have another option.
Anyone else? Back to Councilmember Shade. Did you want to?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Mitchell has his hand up.
Who did?
Councilmember Mitchell.
Oh, thank you. Councilmember Mitchell.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, and colleagues, I have very mixed emotion about it, because more so than others, I'm out in the street every night, like to 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm still driving through 1 o'clock in the morning, and the police officers out there to tell you that I'm out there with them at night, and people are still gathering around, and I'm afraid that we open this door, which we might not have a choice but to do it. I feel that we're gonna run into some big problems. And even with our police department, even try to keep this under wraps or even enforce it, I don't know how they're going to even do that. And I believe a lot of people are going to come in more back into the city, and I'm just afraid that it's going to spread it more to me, because this thing is very serious, and I don't see it's dropping at all. It's increasing to me with the numbers that we are being shown, even in Charleston County. We went from the other day from 383 to 391 now. So that means it's increasing a little bit in Charleston County. So I know what the governor is doing, and we might not have a choice, but I just have very mixed emotion about opening anything right now. I figured if we give it another 2 weeks to see what's happening, even if the governor they're giving it another 2 weeks to see what's going to happen, then we might could look at it very seriously. But right now, just trying to rush to do this, I think he is making a big mistake. That's my opinion on it, that he's making a big mistake. So I have to really agree with my colleagues on this one. But then, like I said, we might not have a choice because the government is making this,
right.
He is doing it, opening it up. So I don't think we might have a choice coming from the state to just supersede what we can do. But I believe it's going to be a big mistake.
Well,
from what I see in the community now in this peninsula, with different those stores that's opening, barbershops, you got nail shops, all these going to be opening up, and people will be gathering around, and who's going to be there to really to monitor those things, and you're going to put the police department under a strain to monitor these things, and it's going to be a problem. I believe it's going to be a problem. That's just my opinion.
Right, and I understand that, and I think the governor will, in the next week or two, be coming back to us with more openings as this desire is out there to continue to open things up. And we're not voting. This matter is not to decide whether something opens or not. It's just saying that if something does open, that we want to have the strictest and clearly laid out protocol for safety for those stores. And at the end of the day, when you talk about enforcement, this thing is so big, it's really going to be a joint responsibility, not just us asking people to do certain things or telling them. It's going to be a joint responsibility, and store owners will understand that it's good business for them to do, quote, the right thing and to be safe. And I think many consumers are already there. You see folks walking around with masks, right? They get it. So it's going to be a joint responsibility of our citizens and our business owners and government all together. It's, as Chief Reynolds has said before, this kind of compliance is more about working with people and educating people rather than having a, quote, police state telling everybody everything that they have to do. It's more about a spirit of cooperation. And again, we're not in this situation, we're not the ones that are saying you can open or not. We're the ones that saying that if you can open, we want Charleston to be as safe as anywhere around, and putting out there the compliance and the protocol for people to be able to do that, so that at the end of the day, I get back to this vision of a few months from now, when we're really truly open, that we can say, and proudly, that we kept Charleston safe. We kept our numbers low. We flattened the curve. In fact, our numbers on the rate of increase through today continue to show that. Our daily numbers for Charleston County are pretty reasonable, pretty low. And the rate of increase has decreased. If you look at the dashboard that MUSC put up last week to track these numbers in our community, we really are moving in the right direction. I'll admit that the test kits aren't in yet, that I had wanted to be in place before starting to open things back up. But it is what it is. I talked to Dr. Cole this morning. They have hundreds of thousands of tests coming in, some of which are supposed to be in today. And they're up to 900 tests a day that they can perform on the actual positive or negative on having COVID-19. And then these many tests they've ordered in or to see if you have the antibodies. So, and they're going to work with the city of Charleston, by the way. We're going to be one of the first, quote, businesses or organizations to be able to test our employees, particularly our first responders and our employees that have contact with the public at large, like our environmental services workers. So we're going to be on the front edge of doing all those things. And the way I view it, this is just another piece of that puzzle.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Seekings has a question.
Councilmember Seekings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a question in terms of the current ordinance that we have in place. I don't have it in front of me. When does it expire?
May the 16th, technically. Susan?
Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry. Councilmember Shade had his hand up a little bit ago, and I'll come back to you. Councilmember Shade, did you?
I did, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. And Susan, if you could help us with this a little bit more, because in my conversation with you earlier today, I was concerned about this taking place. When the city enacted its ordinances back in mid-March, we were ahead of the rest of the state on imposing restrictions. Then we kept on sort of upping our game, a little bit more restrictive, and then the governor sort of caught up with the rest of the city on imposing the stay-at-home and these other restrictions. And I've tried to find the order before our council meeting came in. So the governor has issued an order that allows these particular establishments to open up. And we have in place, and Councilmember Seekings just brought it back up, we have in place an ordinance that stays in effect until May 16th that is restrictive on businesses. So how is that in conflict with the governor's order? Because we're not undermining the governor's order, we're just being more restrictive. And what the principle of this ordinance that we have in front of us has is technically more restricted than what the governor's order has issued. In addition, and as you pointed out, that last whereas clause, that we leaving ourselves open to impose more steps if necessary to limit the increase. So it seems to me that we've got in place something already to avoid an increase in the outbreak of this virus. The way that we've got it right now, with an ordinance that expires on May 16th, which is consistent with the very last whereas clause. And the reason I'm upset about all of this is because exactly what Councilmember Appel has brought up. The governor has put cities and mayors like our mayor Tecklenburg into a corner. And that's what I'm upset about, because we have been on the forefront of this thing, and the mayor's shown extraordinary leadership on this thing to make sure that our citizens are safe. And so here's a political move. This is all this is. This is a political move. It's going against the science. It's going against the numbers that we know we have right now. It's going against the federal government's own recommendations of a 14-day period of time to show a gradual decrease in these numbers. So here we are, we're dealing with a political hot potato. And it seems to me that we've got an ordinance in place that expires on May 16th. Let's keep that ordinance in place. And let's let that ordinance ride itself out and see where this thing leads us. Hopefully in that period of time, we're talking about 3 weeks from now, or we come back in 2 weeks from today's date and see where the numbers are and see if we've shown a tremendous or a significant decrease in our reported cases. I think the trend's there. I think it's going to happen, as the mayor pointed out a few seconds ago. We're going to see some improvements on this. We know what we're doing has been successful. We know what we're doing has probably saved lives in the city of Charleston and our tri-county area, because the mayor took the lead on this thing, and he in other cities sort of joined in what was going on, and the governor even finally caught up with the mayors of Charleston and Columbia. And I think this continue to show our leadership with this thing, support the mayor with this thing 100%, and let's not have this ordinance imposed. Let's keep our May 16th ordinance in effect. And this where we are, we can review this at any other point in time. But I think that way we got this thing structured right now allows us to add more restrictions. We've got it. We've already got the restrictions in place. Let's keep it the way it is. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Jackson.
I just wanted to clarify for Mr. Mitchell that the governor's order does not change the state, the closures for salons and barbershops and gyms and places where the customer has to have close contact.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Not at this time. That's correct.
No,
Right.
that's not what.
I thought I heard you say that, sir. So I just wanted to clarify that.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Right.
I'm talking in general.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I agree with you in general.
Yeah.
Councilmember Appel.
I promise I'll keep this brief. I just saw on Twitter that Georgia is reopening gyms and hair salons on Friday. And if you can believe this, dining in restaurants on Monday. I think that there's the potential for this to get, what you're going to see is these southern states trying to one up each other to see who can be the most rah-rah about getting back to normal. So while I don't know if the hill to die on is a fight with the governor over jewelry stores and florists, I just want to flag this because it may come tomorrow, it may come Wednesday, it may come Friday, where we're having restaurants and bars shoved down our throat. And that's going to be a gut check moment for this city, because I think that that's a real different deal. And there's nobody on this council, perhaps, except for Councilmember Saccharin, who's more in support of our small businesses and our food and beverage and bars and breweries. In fact, I know that's how we all feel. But I don't think there's anybody that seriously thinks we're in a position to get back in the game that quickly. And we're going to have to really cross some preemption crossroads at that point. So, I'm very torn about this today. I'm not sure if jewelry stores and florists and furniture stores, I think this is a stunt, because I don't think there's going to be that many of those businesses even in a position to open up right now. I don't think the demand's there because of this crisis. But I just want to flag this because we could be having some much more complicated discussions in the very near future.
All right. Point taken. Any other comments, suggestions?
Yeah, Mr.
I
Mayor.
have a question.
Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor.
Gregory. Yes.
Yeah, I just want to be clear. I understand. I think most of us understand the political ramification of all this, and I agree with Councilman Appel. This is all about politics, and I don't want to play politics with people's lives. And I've been around long enough to understand this political game. But this game has dire potential consequences, and I just can't play it. I'm too much of a cat to be a kitten. And to me, this is trying to play us as kittens. And I think the definition of a leader is to lead even when it's not popular. And I think this is one of those times, Mayor.
All right. Well, I appreciate the comment. Sometimes you're playing cards, you got the hand that you're dealt, and we're trying to keep everybody as safe as we possibly can.
Understand.
That's my hope. All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye. We have a roll call vote on this one?
Yeah, roll call.
Yep. Vanessa?
Yes. Councilmember Del Chapo,
Aye.
Councilmember Shealy,
Aye.
Councilmember Saccharin,
No.
Councilmember Mitchell,
No.
Councilmember Brady,
Aye.
Councilmember Gregory,
No.
Councilmember Waring, and of course he's excused. Councilmember Seekings,
Nay.
Councilmember Shea,
No.
Councilmember Griffin,
Aye.
Councilmember Appel,
Nay.
Councilwoman Jackson,
No.
Mayor Tecklenburg.
Aye. The motion fails.
It does.
Right. All right. Well, thank you all for your consideration.
Mr. Mayor?
See what comes along over the next few days, and we'll be together tomorrow, at 3 o'clock for our budget committee meeting.
Yes, Mayor.
And what's that? Okay. I don't know if that ended up, did we have one more item on the agenda, Jennifer?
For today, we had
Yeah.
a presentation of Fire Station 11.
Right. Okay.
Yes, sir. This is Jason.
I've got a question.
Are you there?
Mayor, Councilmember Griffin has been trying to get your attention.
Okay, Councilmember Griffin?
Yes, sir. Seeing as how we just voted no and our legal department, advised us not to, can we see if we can get some more on that? Maybe they can reach back out to Attorney General or whoever and give us some more guidance on that come tomorrow. Because it wasn't going to go in effect till Wednesday anyway. I believe if I read your ordinance correctly, I think Wednesday at midnight. Maybe if there's some more that comes up between now and then, maybe tomorrow at this budget workshop, if we can get some guidance from legal, if they get any interaction between the governor's office, just because I would hate for us to put ourselves in a situation where there's any sort of legal ramifications between us and our governor's office.
All right, thank you. So the next thing on the agenda was a little report to y'all. Y'all may remember 2 or 3 or 4 meetings ago, we talked about the fire progress at Fire Station 11 out on Savannah Highway. And we said in 30 days or so, we'd come back and give y'all a report on how that's going. So Mr. Kronsberg, you want to lead off on that?
Yes, and what I'll do is I've got a slide presentation prepared, and I will try to keep it brief and move through the slides, giving everyone an current update. All the photos were taken in the past week. A little bit of update based on the current pay application. The contractor is requesting a 73% complete pay application. With that being said, I will go ahead and let you know that the third-party scheduler went on site and reviewed the project over the weekend, and his evaluation of the progress is a completion of July 9th. That's assuming that we don't have any COVID-related supply chain issues, and that report did not take that into consideration. So now I will share the slideshow with you, and I will try to move through this relatively quickly. And then Beth Brownlee and Edmund Most are also on the line, and I want to thank Beth for
being in the trenches on this project on a daily basis and putting together this slideshow. So with that being said, I'm just going to move through these slides. So here you see the site plan, the building, Savannah Highway. This is the rear portion of the site that you will see in some photos. This is the firefighter memorial over here. So a view from the building towards the Pebble Road, you can see the retention basin is installed and many of the landscape features are installed as well. And of course, you can see the dates on the pictures. That was April 8th. This next view is from the upper floors of the building looking towards Savannah Highway, just giving you kind of a general view of the bell tower that has recently been painted and the progression of the work out front. Here is the elevation of the building from Savannah Highway, and the following pictures will show you the level of completeness. April 13th, April 16th, you can see that all the waterproofing has been installed. The bifold apparatus bay doors have been installed and protected with plywood. Another view from different areas, you can see April 5th, the bell tower was not painted. April 8th, it was. Again, these are all front of the building. March 30th shows you some of the window levels of installation, which you'll see more in a minute. The south facade that faces Pebble Road is the elevation you see here. April 5th, there'll be a series of slides showing different dates. You'll see the brick starting up, and again, another view of the apparatus bay doors. April 8th, you see the brick a little bit more progressed and some of the bay doors being installed on the rear here. Again, another view of April 8th, seeing the progress of the brick. April 16th and April 13th on this side, you can see the brick on the rear of the building is getting up further up the wall. This was a couple days before this one. April 16th, this is the rear of the building, and then that last view is this wall. This view is the brick rise up here. On the right-hand side was a little bit of a filler. You'll see it again. This shows the windows being installed on the side of the apparatus bay. That is the 9 monumental windows that are facing the memorial site. Again, the east facade, which you just saw, shows those windows in place in rendering there. March 26th, this is the image before the last one. You see that the windows had started, but not completely installed. And then again, April 16th, nearing completion. West facade, March 31st, April 5th, you see very little brickwork here. It's starting to go up behind the scaffolding here. April 8th, it's a little bit more progression. You can see here, that is brickwork in the shades, a little bit better exposure here. Going into the floor plans, first floor, go through some images. So this is the training room in the first floor of the building. You'll see this is March 26th and 31st with another progression on April 8th, which shows primer and first coat of paint with a lot of the fixtures coming in and work proceeding. March 20th and April 8th, first floor restrooms that are highlighted here on your screen. You can see they're progressing. The tile work is very nice, subway tile. All the craftsmanship appears very nicely done. Some apparatus bay interior photos from April 8th. You see the protected doors here, the doors in the rear going up. Just a little bit backwards in my dates here, but that was prior to the last images. And then most recently, April 16th, again, protected doors, rear doors complete as far as the doors themselves, and then all of the windows going in above each set of doors. Second floor, go through. So this is the day room. The day room is the room in front of the building that will have the kitchen area and kind of where they have their, where the fire teams will just have their daily commissary, etc. So then we should have the bunk room here that's showed in this photo. Again, all these concrete floors will be polished. That'll be the finished on the floors. This is a primer coat, first coat of paint. Each one of these is a bunk room that you see each cubby there in the plan view. Bathrooms as of late March. This is second floor bathrooms, which have, I didn't have the updated picture, but they've progressed pretty nicely, similar to the first floor images you saw from the first floor. Again, long corridor and stairwell, and simple shots of the mechanical rooms, and that is the presentation. So if you have any questions or comments, again, I am here as well as Beth and Edmund. I'll open the floor for any questions or comments. Yes, sir.
Mayor.
Councilmember Shea.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, thank you, Jason, for that update. And we had chatted earlier about the progress of this. And so it seems like we're moving in the right direction with this being completed. And I just want to tell you, thank you to you and to the other members of the city staff for staying on this and giving us a roadmap to having it completed. And I think we're on the right track. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Yeah, I think they have made a lot of progress in the last 30 days. And even though it might not finish exactly as it may stretch out a little bit longer given everything else that's going on in the world today. It seems like they're making good progress, and I personally believe to shift gears at this point would unnecessarily delay getting the project completed. So I hope you'll support us continuing on and getting this thing done by this summer. It's going to be a beautiful addition to our fire department, and a fitting addition to the site there as well.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councilmember Jackson.
Thank you. I just would, since we're all on here together and we have some public dialing in, can you remind us then, are we going to be taking a vote as far as supporting the continuation of the current contracting firm, or what the comment you just made about you hope that we would join you in continuing? Where will we be asked to take a vote at some point in time in the next?
Yes, ma'am. We'll Jason, do you want to address that?
Yeah, so just a reminder that when we were last in session, that we did have a contract amendment that was before you all, and there were a number of items in that contract amendment that we decided to postpone a vote on to see what kind of progress could be made over the next 30 days, which we were about 30 days from that time. So there was an item on the agenda to amend the contract, which had a number of items in it that I don't have at my fingertips. So perhaps we bring that back at one of the next meetings to reconvene a vote, and that I defer to the mayor and council for your.
We could bring it back to the next regular meeting. There wasn't any change in dollars. It was just an allowance for a change in the schedule a bit.
That's right. There was
Thank you.
Amendment to the contract and some of the 7 items that we had required of them that was in our favor.
Great, thank you.
All right, any other thing for the go to the order? If not, we'll see y'all tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock for our workshop meeting on the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank y'all.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.